With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Thursday nights at the PRL have often been a matter of drama and chaos, and tonight is going to be no different. If anything, we've got a very big chance for some major drama here tonight as we go racing at the Long Beach Street Circuit for this round of the championship. Really looking forward to seeing how the field is going to tackle the very tough streets of Long Beach, California. Bringing it to you live on RaceSpotTV. I'm Reese Gardner, Joey Tebbins alongside me in the commentary box, and Hugo Luis is behind the scenes bringing you these beautiful live pictures of one of the best looking circuits in iRacing. Joey, very happy to get things going here again. Long Beach is the 6th round of the season. We have a threefer in Europe to conclude.
And you took my words already. Chaos and drama are the name of the game at Long Beach. I'll have to look up some synonyms over the course of the night. Maybe some disarray, maybe some turmoil, something like that. But it will be slightly calmer to end the season. Le Mans coming up next at the full Circuit de la Sarthe. Gonna be fairly difficult. It's a hard track to learn if you're not experienced there. But 2 FIA Grade 1 circuits at Algarve, still a fairly new track, and Spa, a little bit more easy to figure out, more similar to the Hockenheimring and Monza last week. So you'll get your 2 difficult weeks out of the way here in week 6 and 7, and then a charge to the finish, if anybody's still around.
Yeah, indeed. Spa's going to be a great final round of the season, but we still have a few rounds left to work out the points. Brandon Wilson still on top after Monza, with Timothy Larson just behind him. It's only a matter of about 14 points separating our GTP top 2 at the top of the field. Graham Wildman has had a really good run these last few rounds, managed to nab himself a podium at Monza. Nathan Ray has also done very well this season, along with Miguel Rios, who puts himself in P5 in the Ferrari 499P. Austin McGill, Bradley Holly, Stephen Finch, Mauricio Gallego, and Matt Benson will round out your GTP top 10 in the drivers. In the teams, Aerokinetics and Nightblind Racing on top, and by quite some margin over Solpec Precision Racing GTP. Valhalla Motorsports in 3rd place. We have to go back a bit to 7th place to see Hyperion Racing GTP, which Mr. Larson, our 2nd place in the championship, is a part of, and it's rounded out by Blue Chip and GFVZ Racing. Some fairly significant point spreads, but it's a good battle for 4th between Eclipse and Tachyon. Meanwhile, in the LMP2 LMP2's Alex Caruso has continued to dominate the standings, but Alex Crow has had some great form in the last few rounds. He is creeping up on Caleb Lehman, who's managed to find himself in second place through sheer consistency alone. Justin Barrera and Kurt Goodson slipping down to 4th and 5th, though they are also a threat for a podium at just about every round. Sam Shreves and Doug Sorrentino, you can throw them in there too. Sorrentino just coming off a podium at Monza. Jason Taylor, Evan Henneman and Kevin Berquist rounding out your LMP2 top 10. Meanwhile, in the teams, well, it's Hyperion Racing 3 LMP2 that is dominating. That is a full 39 points, I believe. Or 41 points, sorry, ahead of Crikey Esports. Southpaw math right there. Hyperion Racing LMP2 a little bit further behind. SRTE all on its own there in 4th place. It looks like a close battle developing between Driven Performance Esports Pro and Tachyon SimSport LMP2. Majors Esport LMP2, basically just Alex Crow there battling with Echelon SimSport for the last position in the LMP2 team standings. Meanwhile, in GT3, Derek Heiberger and Luke Wallace, they continue their battle for the lead of the championship. The teammates have finished in the top 2 at just about every race so far, bar Road America. So they're looking for some good results to round off the season here. It's incredibly close outside the podium spots. Ostrich only 4 points ahead of Eduardo Aguirre, and Tony Costello and Jeff Kaufhold tied on 174. Matthew Wyckoff and Jim Felice tied on 173. Man, it is a massive, massive battle there between SRTE and Valhalla Motorsports. Hyperion Racing will lead the team standings, Valhalla in second. They do have a win on the cards at Road America when the Hyperion Racing cars all suffered issues. Blue Chip Racing not too far ahead of SRTE Orange. There's also a close battle, only 5 points between Vice Motorsport and Hyperion Racing 2. 99 points for Soy Boys, 93 for SRTE Green, and Majors Esport GT3, 10th place on 83 points. In a series which is brought to you by many fantastic sponsors. First off, of course, Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with True Force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. Use code PRECISION at checkout on logitechg.com for 5 to 10% off your purchase. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code at advancedsimracing.com. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Buttkicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Check out moradness.com for more information. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. MrHedge.co.uk. He's also on Facebook and Instagram. Last but not least, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads. And with that, we get into the action here, Joey. And, well, to say I've been anticipating this round all season is probably the understatement of the century.
Would you say you've been expecting maybe a little bit of havoc? A little bit of pandemonium? A hullabaloo even?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, big old electric boogaloo around the streets of Long Beach, and already we're seeing drivers pushing the limits in qualifying. They're seeing the Aerokinetics car of, I believe, Brandon Wilson here running very close to the walls. Man, he is really pushing it here on one of his 4 solo qualifying laps.
That's how you have to drive at Long Beach. You have to get it as close to the walls as humanly possible and just try your best not to overextend. Don't want to hit the wall and get your lap disallowed, but if you can play with those inches you're going to be in good shape. But he's already realized this is going to be a bad lap, so he sends it deep into the hairpin, sets it up for an even longer run down the front stretch. When this lap is only just over a minute long, every 10th you can get is going to help big time, and just that little bit of extra speed down the front straight here might help him out if he can keep it together for another minute.
Yeah, you got to be careful of the curbs as well. Running very close to the walls here through the fountain chicane. You've got to make sure that you have a car that is solid on the front end. If you have a car that understeers at Long Beach, you are in trouble. But you also need a car that rides those bumps nicely and doesn't snap on you too hard.
Difficult braking zone here into turn 6 and 7. Little bit off camber, a little bit of a blind turn in there with that wall, then clipping over the curb onto Seaside Way in turn 8, getting very close to the outside wall. And then look at how close he gets here to the left side wall here in turn 9. He's basically scraping it. He's using every inch of the track. Hops the curb a little bit on the inside of turn 9, a little bit more in this long left-hander at turn 10, and then the impossible task of steering a prototype around the hairpin, full lock, throw it in, and hope you can unwind the wheel in a somewhat delicate manner to get it pointed back onto the front straight. It was a pretty clean lap, not good enough and not clean enough to beat Timothy Larson, but being only a 10th off, being in P2, that's pretty good for Brandon Wilson.
Yeah, certainly is. He'll be able to keep the championship battle going for this round. Matt Brewer in third in LMP2 right now, making his way out of the final corner, and we'll wait and see for the time to come across for him. A 1 minute 13.0, and looks to me like that's not quite his best. He's only missed out on it by about a 10th. We check in with GT3 meanwhile. I think the GT3s might have a bit of an easier time in terms of driving on your own at Long Beach. They're not as stiff as the prototypes. They can absorb the bumps a little better, and so you see them pushing quite hard over those bumpy sections.
But the key part of that sentence is on their own. It is going to be easier on their own. It's an easier way to drive qualifying as long as you don't throw it in the wall. But there will be prototypes flying around these guys for the entirety of the hour, and that is where you're really in danger in a GT3 car, especially at a place like this. It's dangerous enough when you're at a wide open track, when you're at a place like Monza or Road America that has plenty of runoff, plenty of grass. Long Beach, if you get hit by a prototype at high speeds, you're going directly into concrete, so this is definitely the most dangerous race of the season to be a GT3 car. You're going to have to be watching out all race long.
Yeah, indeed you are. Some of the toughest and, well, definitely the slowest corner on iRacing in the form of the hairpin. So Derek Heiberger will maintain his provisional pole position in GT3 for now. Check in with his Hyperion stablemate in LMP2, Ryan Long, who's trying to get further into the top 5 here. What he needs is about half a 10th of a second or so, and he'll be able to jump up ahead of both Justin Barrera and Matt Brewer. Barrera and Brewer only separated by 1/100th of a second in terms of lap time, and it's only about another 100th back to Ryan Long. So any small improvement he can make on this lap is going to pay dividends for him, but it all depends on if he can avoid the dreaded, not off-track 1x this time, but the dreaded contact 0x. Any little tap of the wall could invalidate your lap completely in qualifying.
Look a little bit slidey into turn 9, but looks clean through 10 and 11, gets the wheel unfurled and gets it pointed straight. Is it going to be enough to challenge his teammate, Alex Caruso, maybe? Not quite. It's good enough for third, it looks like, so it's going to be Hyperion 1 and 3, but still the Alex C domination in LMP2 continues. They've won every single race so far this season. Caruso's got 4, Crow's got 1. It's tough to beat those two guys. They've got an Alex monopoly or a duopoly up there.
Yeah, it's a good season to be named Alex in the Precision Racing League, and that was a really good improvement from Long as well. Managed to gain about half a second alone on that lap. We'll keep an eye on Jim Feliz here as well in GT3. He's certainly had some good runs, but a couple of rounds where things have just not gone his way. I think back to Road America, where he had an absolutely horrid time. He was trying to work his way back up through the field basically the whole whole way through. He is an incredibly talented individual when it comes to GT3, so let's see what the Acura can do here for SRTE Green coming up to the start-finish line. Provisional pole for GT3 is a 118.1, and Jim Felice just sneaks across the line in time, but it was not an improvement. Managed to run a couple of hundredths, slower than his fastest lap. So that rounds off qualifying. We can confirm that our pole sitters are Timothy Larson in GTP, Alex Caruso in LMP2, and Derek Heiberger in GT3. But we're going to go to Alex Caruso's lap here and bring him in for a bit of a chat about yet another pole on record in that Hyperion racing car. Welcome, Alex. This is going to be a very tough night, to say the least.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, working your way through the streets of Long Beach here, what are your thoughts coming into this round in terms of negotiating the traffic? There are a few straights where you'll be able to pass the GT3 safely and be passed by the GTPs as well, but particularly in Sector 1, it's going to be a nightmare, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a really big job of maintaining full send versus not full send. I mean, like, just a lot of the GTPs are going to be full sending it, down the inside, down the outside, wherever they can. So we've either got to decide to match that full send or not full send,
And how's the fuel looking for this round? Because we've seen that the LMP2s have made it about 40-ish minutes into the race here. Long Beach, of course, a lot slower average speed, a lot more time spent off throttle. Do you think that the stint's going to be longer?
Yeah, I imagine it probably will be. The IMSA officials have been kind of one strategy only, where everybody's just kind of fuel saving if you want to win. But I mean, with the extended length here and the little bit extra fuel we have, it kind of makes that strategy a little bit more difficult. So I'll be excited to see what everybody decides is best.
Awesome. Thanks very much for joining us, Alex. Good luck.
Thank you.
Alex Caruso there, and his stablemate Derek Heiberger is with us now as we check out his GT3 pole lap. And, well, Derek, I mentioned earlier on that the GT3s have a bit of an easier time over the bumps here at Long Beach, but the walls are not negotiated with springs.
Yeah, the setup is a lot more forgiving on a GT3 around here. You just soften the car up and you can ride right over all the curbs. However, that induces a lot of understeer in the car, and those walls bite pretty hard.
Yeah, you got to be careful on turn-in for a lot of these corners as well. And it seemed you were having some technical issues in qualifying as well. You were blinking on our end. So are you feeling a bit lucky that this lap ended up counting?
Yeah, I mean, the internet issues I've been having have been very momentary blinks for the most part, so it hasn't really invalidated many laps while practicing this week, but temperatures dropped in my area a lot and the internet's been a little unstable, so hopefully it hangs on for the race.
All right, well, negotiating the slowest corner in iRacing, that hairpin is going to be a one-line affair all race. We wish you the best of luck, Derek, and hopefully we can chat to you at the end.
That's the plan. Thank you, guys.
Derek Heiberger on pole in GT3, and that's going to end things off for reviewing the pole laps. It's actually quite a short lap here at Long Beach for how much effort you go through around here, Joey.
Yeah, it might be a short lap, but that just means you're going to be doing it all the more times over the course of the hour in the race. So it's going to be strenuous. It's going to be very, very difficult, and you're not going to have much time to be just on your own, in your own class. Lap times between the fastest GTPs down to the GT3s are separated only by about 20 seconds or so. So give it 3 or 4 laps, and you're going to be in lap traffic already.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, in terms of percentage of lap time, I mean, there's about 10, 11 seconds difference between the GTPs and the GT3s around a lap that only takes about 68, 69 seconds in the average GTP race pace. So yeah, you're right. They are going to come up on them incredibly quickly. So everyone needs to be on their A game for this one.
Getting a little bit of racing practice in here. You do only get 5 minutes for this warm-up, but that's 5 laps, essentially, with how short these laps are. So there's lots you can learn. There's lots of comfortability you can get in the car, and you can get a little bit of extra time learning how to navigate lap traffic. And I think right here, this is going to be a great opportunity. One of the Hyperion Racing Acuras. Can't identify the number immediately. It's the 98.
It's Heiberger.
Yeah, Heiberger, and he's got an LMP2 behind him. I believe that's Evan Henneman, and he's just studying a little bit here, trying to figure out where's the best way to get by him. Is it worth it being patient through the final sector? Is it worth going for the overtake? He's decided no, it's not really worth it to go for the overtake there, and he's going to use the exceptional straight line speed of that Dallara LMP2 and blow by Heiberger on the front straight instead of going for a more risky move in the final sector. So that's some good studying and good opportunities for keeping himself alive in the race.
Yeah, very smart stuff there. Well, we will see how these look at the end of the race as we go through the grid. Timothy Larson on pole position in GTP, Brandon Wilson alongside him, Austin McGill and Dave Menino third and fourth. The third row being Miguel Rios and Matt Benson. Behind them, we have Graham Wildman and Nathan Ray on the fourth row. Darian Roy and Stephen Finch round out the top 10. Aaron Beaver and Casey O'Brien round out your GTP field of 12 cars. Moving to LMP2, Alex Caruso and Alex Crow. It's an Alex lockout at the front row again. Ryan Long and Matt Brewer on third and fourth, with Justin Barrera and Caleb Lehman in fifth and sixth. Look for them to work their way forward. Kurt Goodson and Sam Shreves on row four, with Kevin Berquist and Doug Sorrentino rounding out your top 10. Evan Henneman and Eric Harmon 11th and 12th, and then we just have Ian Cabana rounding out our field of 13 for LMP2. And finally, in GT3, Heiberger and Wallace lock out the front row again for Hyperion Racing. Thomas Dunn and Tony Costello on row 2, Matthew Wyckoff and Jim Feliz 5th and 6th. We have Jeff Kaufhold and Eduardo Aguiar on the fourth row, with Joey Costello and Matthew Maturo rounding out your top 10. Devin Young and Adam Ostrich 11th and 12th. Our final two GT3s will be Doug Evans and Robert McGeehan in the Corvette and the Mustang. Let's see what the American cars can do around this iconic American street circuit as we are rolling away on the formation lap. Pretty reasonable track temperatures here. A 67 Fahrenheit in the air, that's 20 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. Track, that is 21 degrees Celsius. So I think there's going to be a lot of grip available to the drivers early on, but if your tires are cold, you can have a tough time.
Yeah, fairly chilly day in Long Beach by comparison. I would have expected it to be maybe 10 or so degrees warmer than that, but it is the middle of February, both real time and iRacing virtual time, so a little bit of a chilly day will indeed provide for a little bit of solace for those tires in the opening laps, but with the artificial separation created by the PRL rules, the GTPs pull forward a little bit, the LMP2s hang back a little bit, the GT3s hang back even more. It's not even going to be 5 laps until they reach lap traffic. It might be about 2.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're already moving away here to the start-finish line for the GTPs. It's single file only through the hairpin, and the GTPs are maintaining single file as they take the green flag. Timothy Larson is away. Austin McGill already starting to chase Brandon Wilson down to turn 1, and this is where you need to make sure that your brakes are up to temp, and so are your tires as well. The LMP2s are away, and it looks like a clean start from Caruso and Crow as the GTPs make their way through the fountain section without too much incident. The GT3s go single file as well, and this time it is Luke Wallace's turn to have some technical issues as Derek Heiberger makes his way out in front in the Acura. So now we just wait and see who's the first to blink, and there's already something going wrong in LMP2 there. That's Matt Brewer and Ryan Long trading places. The Hyperion cars getting into each other, and Justin Barrera sneaks through to third.
Yeah, it was a deliberate choice by the PRL organizers to have a single file start for all 3 classes. That's what they always do at Long Beach. But even with a single file start, you can be clean through the first couple of corners, and then drama can immediately strike. It's exactly what happened for the third place Hyperion car. Got a little bit understeery, just coming over that curb, hopped it a little bit, and nearly took out his teammate, nearly took out Justin Barrera for their issues as well. But yeah, lap 1, already the walls are biting.
Yeah, they certainly are. And now it's Hyperion versus Hyperion into the hairpin, and the number 42 of Caleb Lehman having to really jump on the brakes already into the pits. Going, I believe that was Brewer there. He got some damage, and Ryan Long still has plenty of damage on his left side too, but evidently for Matt Brewer, it is a case of it's too much damage to continue, so he's just going to get that repaired right away and hope and pray for the rest of this hour.
And Ryan Long again deep into turn one. He actually clipped the tire wall a little bit, so that is not a car that's driving well. That is not a car he's comfortable in. Caleb Lehman knows that, and he even thought about going for a move into turn one. Wasn't quite close enough to make it happen, but this should be fairly straightforward doing for Caleb Lehman. Just needs to set up Long, needs him to probably make one more mistake if that car's unsettled a little bit. He should be able to get by him on a straight, but it's not always easy. You gotta wait for a high percentage move. Even when you are faster than the car in front at Long Beach, you need a great opportunity, or else an attempted pass is an attempted wreck.
Yeah, indeed. It only ever remains an attempt. Well, looks like there's this battle for fourth place really developing here in LMP2. Barrera in third is streaking away from these guys, and it's clear to me that Caleb Lehman's getting held up a little bit in some sections of the track there by Ryan Long. So we'll see what, if any, damage he collected from that contact with Mr. Brewer, and see if he can hold on to that. Actually managing to get a good gap there on the start-finish straight, but coming into these twistier sections, it seems like Caleb Lehman starts scrambling all over the back of him.
Through turn one, he was cleaner that time, though, so maybe he was just a little bit jittery. Maybe he was a little bit shocked by that contact, and now he's kind of gotten the rhythm back, so we may have underestimated him. We may have thought that damage was more severe than it actually was, and he seems to be in pretty good shape now. But Caleb Lehman still looks clean, still looks smooth, but that Ryan Long mobile in front of him is getting further and further away. I think Caleb thought this was going to be easier than it was, and he's actually got more pressure behind him from another Hyperion car of Sam Shreves, who's all over the back of him.
Lehman running in VR, loves sticking the googly eyes on his VR headset, and I mean that's literally what I look like lapping around Long Beach. It's a track that really demands all of your focus. Meanwhile, looks like Dave Menino here, further back in the GTP field. He is way down. He's had an incident at turn one, locked up and into the runoff area, fortunately keeping it out of the barriers. That was very well executed after the mistake by Dave Menino. Let's see if he can climb his way back up.
And that was good, quick thinking. Knew he was locking up, knew that was going to end up in the tire barrier, and he registered that in just enough time to be able to swerve it to the right and keep out of the wall. But here is exactly what I mentioned. It's going to take 5 minutes or so to get into GT3 traffic, and we're already there. And as we rode on board with Graham Wildman there, he had to check up in the middle of a corner you don't normally have to check up in. Totally unsettled the car. Luckily, it was low enough speeds that he was able to catch it, but that's only the first time you're going to have to deal with a GT3 car, Graham. You got 55 more minutes of that coming.
Oh, you certainly do. Wildman battling with Matt Benson there. Meanwhile, here's Nathan Ray chasing Stephen Finch in the pink and white Ferrari 499P. Let's see where the next GT comes up on them. It looks like they've already dispatched Robert McGeehan and Doug Evans, who are still running in the last two places at the back of the GT3 field. For now, looks like a bit of a gap has developed, so let's see how long we get. Oh, I do see a GT3 car in the distance there. Looks like that may very well be Adam Ostrich. We'll have to wait and see on that. Our leader, Timothy Larson, is right in the middle of the GT3 pack right now, and look at the luxurious lead that he has. Seems like he's placed his car perfectly, and the luck of the draw has favored him.
It is great to be a leader when you're dealing with lap traffic, especially at a place like this. He is going to be able to slice through two more cars here. Wilson did a good job. The final two corners, he actually did make, I think, 3 passes in the space of those 3 corners. So he was on it, but unfortunately for him, here comes Larson into turn 1. He's going to get one of the Ferraris, and now he will have to check up a little bit. He'll lose a little bit more time here, but Wilson has essentially a 3-car buffer between him and the race leader, and that's not really going to go away until they both, I think, navigate through all of this traffic, and then they'll be back on even footing, and Wilson will be about 3 seconds behind.
Yeah, indeed. You can just see Brandon Wilson in the background there. What I'm noticing about Larson is he's not being too hectic about this as he's navigated through the GT3 field. He's taking his time, he's picking his moves, and he's getting it done cleanly with plenty of space left. And that's exactly what you want to see. That's exactly what you look for as a GTP driver. A nice clean run through traffic where you don't have to force the issue. Well, he's going to have to go around the outside here of Luke Wallace, but he manages to almost get back onto the racing line through the hairpin. This is textbook how to get through traffic here from Timothy Larson.
I do worry for Timothy Larson, though, as we've seen all season. It is very early days. We're only 7 minutes into the race. It looks like he may have an insurmountable lead. It looks like he's cruising with a 3-second lead. But how many times have we seen this exact situation? He's been leading. Wilson's been behind by a couple seconds. He's struggled to get through traffic. But then when the pit cycle rolls around, Wilson's able to have a much shorter run through pit lane. He's able to jump Larson on pit strategy, and he's able to run away with the race win. That's happened 3 out of 5 times this season, so it might look like it's a Larson show right now, but you can't get complacent. There's a lot of racing to go, and you know Brandon Wilson likes to strategize, to use a scientific word.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, we've seen that happen many, many times as Costello trying to hold off Wyckoff, Feliz, and Kaufhold. Jeff a couple of seconds behind Feliz. It's really the battle between Wyckoff and Feliz here as, has had to make way for the Cadillac around the outside, did Jim Feliz. And that was an example of GT3s having to compromise themselves as the GTPs went by. Matt Benson and Graham Wildman were working their way through just then. And the battle has started to close up here between Stephen Finch and Nathan Ray. Actually, Ray's managed to get by Stephen Finch. They were swapped just before. Well, now try to find a way through. Got to be careful of GT3s thinking, maybe I can just go to the inside early and let the GTPs go around the outside. It's so difficult when you're going into a fast corner like Shoreline Drive.
And you can see in the rearview mirror there, Finch was trying to run away from Darian Roy, so he was hoping for a bumper or a buffer into turn 1, and I think he got exactly that. He's made it through. He's survived. And no, he didn't make it through. Stephen Finch did not make it through turn 1. He's actually down pit lane right now. I think he ended up in the wall in turn 1 as soon as we looked away there.
Yeah, looks like it. I've just flicked to him in pit lane and he's missing his front end. And it seems like he actually got tapped a little bit by Tony Costello coming into the first turn. Ended up collecting the wall. Here's the replay. Look for the Ferrari on the right here. Gets back online in the braking zone, and there was that little tap. That's what you got to be careful of as a GTP. And he stopped in the middle of the circuit, but fortunately managed to get himself off the circuit in time. But yeah, you do need to be careful when you're passing traffic there. Getting into a braking zone, sometimes it's not the best thing to do to try and get back online.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Finch would have made the corner there in the first place, honestly. There was that little bit of contact, but he had so much speed coming in there. Maybe he was a little bit distracted or got a little bit of target fixation with the GT traffic, but he was throwing it in there so hot. I don't know if he would have made that corner either way. Look at streams around the outside.
A little tap of the wall as well for good measure. This is a great rollicking battle in LMP2. It's still the battle for roundabout 4th. Ryan Long is at the front of this pack. It's really between Lehman, Shreves, Goodson, and Sorrentino. Now, we've seen these guys all together quite a few times over the course of this season. Man, it's just continuing here at Long Beach. It's difficult to make the pass, though.
Yeah, it didn't work out that time. It's very rare that you pull off a pass around the outside at Long Beach. That's not even a sentence to even theorize. But Sam Shreves came within inches of actually making it happen. And that's got to make Caleb Lehman a little bit scared. He is now the holder-upper. It's not Ryan Long holding him up. He's got a train of 3 hungry cars, 2 of whom are Hyperion teammates of 2 of the guys ahead of him that have proven now that they are willing to do some unorthodox things to get by him. Give Sam Shreves an inch, and evidently he's going to take it.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about the exit coming onto the back straight there for the LMP2s as we check back in with the GT3 battle. Wyckoff in 4th place at the front of this train. Jim Feliz in the Acura chasing him down, and it's very difficult to judge, you know, how the GT3s catch up to each other in races like this, especially at tracks like Long Beach, because there's so much variance in lap time that comes from just a little mistake, maybe going side by side in one corner, then having to give way to prototypes, etc. So I mean, Jim Feliz may very well have run half a second faster than Wyckoff on the last lap, but it's unclear whether or not he actually has a pace advantage. For now, though, he does look like he is getting closer.
That was a very good run out of turn 5, but these straights aren't long enough that you really get any effect of the draft. You need to make a move with momentum, with mechanical grip. You can't really rely on the draft unless you're very, very close coming down the front straight. So right now, all Jim can do is stay in the shadows of Matthew, make sure he's keeping him on his toes in the braking zones, make sure he's making that green SRT Acura as visible as possible in the mirrors, and try and force Wyckoff into a mistake, because it's going to be very, very difficult to make any kind of move any other way. And a mistake coming out of the hairpin, which none of them did that time, is exactly the kind of thing you can force somebody into by pressurizing them. It's very difficult to drive a GT3 car through the hairpin. You've got to let the wheel kind of unfurl on the exit. You've essentially got to drop it out of your hands in a smooth fashion somehow. And with that run down the front stretch, as important as it is, if you're putting pressure on somebody, they might just screw it up.
They may very well do. That's a very early stop from Alex Crow on the bottom of your screen. Was running second in LMP2. I'm wondering if he's picked up damage somewhere, or maybe he's trying to reverse engineer the strategy here, get the pit stop done early, and then focus on just making the fuel last to the end. We have seen the LMP2s go quite a distance on fuel. Around about 40 to 45 minutes is the maximum they can do at a conventional track. And we did hear from Alex Caruso that the fuel strategy could change a little at Long Beach. The fuel tank could last a bit longer. So I'm still not sure if what we're seeing from Alex Crow here is fixing a mistake or a stroke of genius.
I'm feeling like it was just a deliberate move to flip strategy on its head, because even in a race, or even in a car that can go 45 minutes on a single tank like the LMP2 car, you could theoretically flip strategy around at any track. Long Beach has been known in the PRL for, you know, some alternate strategies, some fuel saving. You remember back to when we had 35, 40-minute GT3 races, people found a way to save enough fuel to make those work in 0 stops.
Yeah.
So I remember. Maybe would it be possible to stretch an LMP2 fuel tank until like 50 minutes or 55 minutes maybe? Or in the case of Alex Crow, he's coming down early. He's going to have to stretch the fuel tank for about 48 minutes.
Yeah, indeed. Well, this developing storyline that we are going to keep track of here in this broadcast, watching the Matt Benson Cadillac, the Valhalla GTP. His Valhalla teammate Austin McGill in the 99 seems to have had a large problem in the last lap or so. McGill has somehow found the wall and unfortunately is out of the race for the time being, as it's an absolute parking lot down here at turn 8. LMP2's trying to make their way through the GT3s. It's still this 4-way fight between Lehman, Shreves, Goodson, and Sorrentino, and they got Brandon Wilson, second place in GTP, with them as well.
Brandon Wilson does not want to be here. He is not having a fun time, and he's having even less of a fun time trying to get around prototypes. It's essentially dead even in those final 3 corners, whether you're a GTP or an LMP2. He does finally make it through. He's swerving as quick as he can to get out of this cloud of cars, but you can see he lost about 3 seconds there, reaching a cloud of LMP2 cars. And everybody in LMP2 did a good job of surviving that. Lehman made it through, Shreves made it through. They were 3 wide at some point, so it seemed unlikely that was going to happen, but well done by everybody, making it through that. You're going to see that many, many more times today.
Indeed you are. So we've got a cloud of LMP2s. I often hear a gaggle of GT3s. What's the group name for GTP, I wonder? Oh, we'll have to hold that thought. There's a side-by-side between Doug Sorrentino and Kurt Goodson, and Sorrentino making the move at turn 6 through the little kink of turn 7 and then to turn 8. He's going to have to try and negotiate around the outside. Not much space on the exit, threading between the wall and the tyre barrier. They're going to continue side-by-side down the back straight. Who is the last of the late breakers for the fearsome turn 9? Sorrentino around the outside, trying to get it done. It becomes the inside for turn 10, but it looks like Goodson's going to hold him off.
Well done, Kurt Goodson, using the side draft to his advantage down Seaside Way, and he's going to hold on to that. That's fantastic stuff. Kurt Goodson's had so many of these like spectacular drives this season. He got a highlight to his own after his lap 1 spin at Hockenheim. He drove from something like 24th to 7th. Now he's showing off some spectacular defensive driving. Good old Kurt Goodson. Start calling him the one LMP2 car highlight reel.
You'd say he's good, son.
He is good, son.
Oh boy. All right, well, that's the terrible pun out of the way for this broadcast. We can tick that one off the list. Now let's see if they can make their way through this GT3 pack. Still got GTPs ahead of them as well. One of the Valhalla cars. I can't tell if that's Darian Roy, Matt Benson, or Austin McGill, who has made his way back out onto the racetrack. But for now, it looks like Sorrentino is going to have to yield to Goodson and try and find another way through later on, as the Ferrari of Miguel Rios, I believe, is now coming through there. The number 77, just minding his own business on his own at the moment. The only battle in GTP is between Matt Benson and Graham Wildman.
Yeah, I like Rios kind of sticking around in the Ferrari. Oh, and well, he's not sticking around anymore. He gets run over by one of the Hyperion LMP2s. Doug Sorrentino runs over the back of Miguel Rios. I'm shocked that hasn't happened already. It has been a remarkably clean race for the first 18 minutes, and it's taken us until now to see our first real checkup at the hairpin.
Yeah, I expected there would be a lot more drama in the first 20 minutes or so of this race, but everyone's been taking it nice and carefully. You know, there have been a couple of moments of bravery, yes, but I think everyone's just taking the race administrator's advice to heart and making sure that it's a clean race. Wildman in his battle here with Matt Benson. Nathan Ray and Dave Menino are actually catching up to them here as they find their way through both GT3s and LMP2s. You know, where do you put your car is the question in a lot of these corners, and Wildman, I think, is just glad to get through that pack.
Yeah, he had to put himself offline into turn 8 to get around that Ferrari. That kind of killed any chances he had of keeping stuck to the back of Matt Benson, but take a deep breath. Oh, can't take a deep breath there, as Miguel Rios again has run into trouble at the hairpin. He's got it going, but 2 laps in a row. Miguel Rios, and I think that was Doug Sorrentino again too, or at least it was a Hyperion car. They're tripping over each other again.
Yeah, it looks like Rios tapped the GT3 Porsche of Thomas Dunn around in the hairpin, and Dunn spun across the racing line, so Rios had to come to a complete stop. That's what created that big checkup there, but they both managed to get away with minimal damage from that. Just a slight little whoops-a-daisy moment.
Little whoops-a-daisy, and as I was saying before, Miguel started the Checkup Festival, or was involved in the Checkup Festival. It's good to see that there's still a Ferrari running out here. Here's what happened to Nathan Ray in his Cadillac. Easy mistake to make. Turn 9, just braking a little bit too late, losing control. It's so easy at a place like this where there's inches in it. You lose your focus for a millisecond at turn 1 or at turn 9, you're out braking yourself and you're sending it into the wall. And poor old Adam Ostrich didn't do anything wrong there. He just got murked by another car.
Oh, and that's what happened to Robert McGeehan. So we've had a whole raft of incidents just happen there that we are checking on replay. Looked like one of the Valhalla Cadillacs there that unfortunately came together with him coming out of the hairpin. Very difficult to try and pick your line out of there as you're trying to unwind the steering. Well, check back in on the fight with Matthew Wyckoff and Jim Feliz trying to grab 4th in GT3, but got 2 sets of prototypes passing him there. all three of our classes 3 wide for just a brief moment there. The number 64 LMP2 of Kevin Berquist there, finding his way through cleanly. Has to stay behind Wyckoff for the time being. There's no way you can find a way through in this section of the circuit. He's going to have to wait until the next straight. Fortunately, only 1 corner away, now 0. Just get on the power and you'll be able to pass him by the time you get to turn 6.
He was actually being very delicate into turn 1. I think he had the opportunity to make the move on Wyckoff, and it would have been fairly straightforward, but Kevin Berquist is a conservative driver in an LMP2 car. He knows there's still 39 minutes left on the clock. He wants to make it to the end of the race, and he's not really racing anybody. He's 8 seconds behind Sorrentino and 6 seconds ahead of his teammate. If he can choose to just survive and not take any risks whatsoever, he's going to take that, and he's kept himself alive. That's the move of a driver who can afford to be conservative.
Yes, indeed. Well, there's a trade for positions between Evan Henneman and Ian Cabana. Henneman making his way through very nicely. It's these drivers further back in the LMP2 field that I'm most impressed with, because I feel like they've got some of the harder jobs here, as it looks like that's Cabana making his way into the pits there. He's going to be another early caller for a pit stop. Yeah, the LMP2s have a very tough job here. You know, not only do they have to try and pass GT3s, they've got GTPs trying to pass them. So, you know, it's an active compromise every time you get into an LMP2 in this league, and I'm continually impressed by the ability of these drivers to weather that.
Riding on board there with Evan Henneman for a moment. Good to see the inside of the Henneman sphere, the Henneman verse. Was very blue, was very nice. Speaking of blue, our two favorite blue cars, Kurt Goodson and Sam Shreves, they're back at it. They gave us that battle a couple of laps ago. Shreves has ended up back ahead of Goodson, but Kurt Goodson's not going to give up. He's going to have a great run here out of the hairpin. He's going to have the full force of the draft down the front straight. Kurt might be back at him.
Yeah, don't forget, Goodson was battling with Sorrentino just before, and Doug's starting to fall off the back of these two. So it's actually a nice leap forward from Kurt Goodson. Got a little bit of GT3 traffic to contend with here, though. Looks like Derek Heiberger there, and Robert McGeehan as well at the very back of the GT3 field. That Mustang is looking a bit worse for wear there. He's had a couple of taps here and there, but still rolling, which is good to see.
It almost looks like a modified. He's just he's taken off the 2 front quarters. Good for tire cooling, probably. Those are probably some very cool tires.
Yeah, probably. Not that you'd need much tire cooling around here with the track temp being as low as it is.
Yeah. And it helps because that Mustang is very, very wide. It's a very big boy. So if anything, he's doing the field a service. Just smack the wall a couple times on both sides, narrow the car out, give everybody else some more room. What a selfless guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a few millimeters is worth miles at Long Beach,
exactly.
At any street circuit, really. So yeah, any little effort you can make is going to pay off later on. Well, we're almost at the halfway point of this race, and we have seen pit stops from a portion of the LMP2 field. Only really Evan Henneman, Ian Cabana, and Alex Crow. So they're the ones that have decided to go like really long on the strategy on the second stint. We're waiting to see what the rest of the LMP2 field does. We are expecting pit stops for GT3 and GTP as well, but the question is, when are they going to come in? I think Long Beach is perhaps the track where you have to pay the most attention to where you're going to come out in traffic.
It's been difficult to do because I don't have a track map in front of me right now, but if I have to imagine that if I did, there would be marching ants in every inch of this track. There's maybe a little bit of clean air ahead of this LMP2 battle right here, but other than that, there's not much in terms of clean track. There's not much in terms of good places you can end up after you pit. So it basically comes down to luck, I think. Are you going to have a better run coming in early? Maybe passing the same cars that a rival that pits later is going to pass later. I don't know. It's an impossible calculation. You just gotta hope that yours is going to work out. I don't know any way you can really predict whether an earlier stop or a later stop is going to run you into less traffic at Long Beach. It's just a guessing game.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out if Miguel Rios' guess was correct, because he's just taken a pit stop, the first of our GTPs to come into the lane on a scheduled stop there. And 14.8 seconds in the box. That seems pretty standard for GTP pit stop length, and he comes out with no traffic around him. That is a massive benefit there for Rios. The next car up the road is in fact Timothy Larson, the GTP leader, and he's a couple of corners ahead. So I think Rios might have just pulled the rabbit out of the hat there. We'll see if it works out for him.
Ooh, here comes Kurt Goodson, back at it, at Sam Shreves this time. Got a great run, and he's got the inside this time. Well done. Straightforward move that time. Didn't have to do anything crazy, just later on the brakes. Managed to get a nose ahead of Shreves. A little bit of a slide job at the exit of turn 9, and Kurt Goodson up one more spot. He's up into the top 5 now.
It's been a very good drive from Goodson. He's been consistent, he's been fast, he's been making those moves cleanly where it counts. And he's got some clear air ahead of him to maximize his pace even further. So see what he can do from here. Got quite a bit of time up to Caleb Lehman. I'd say it's around about 2 seconds, 3 seconds or so, but that can be very easily made up at Long Beach with a couple of good laps and your rival being stuck in traffic. Bit of oversteer there across the curb for Sam Shreves. Now he's in contact with Doug Sorrentino. These two Hyperion teammates aren't afraid to race each other. Let's see if Sorrentino can avoid hitting the wall too much like he just did there.
Pretty even through turn 8 there. But we've got a biter. Alex Caruso from the lead in LMP2. He's essentially electing to just split this race in half. One of his teammates came in at essentially the earliest possible opportunity. Caruso's just going for straight normal strategy. We're almost 30 minutes into the race. He was probably just about to reach some traffic, and he says, you know what, I'm going to bring it down, minimize my losses, and he'll be a straightforward pitter, but the majority of the LMP2 field has still not done the same.
Yeah, we also see a pit stop from Dave Menino in GTP, and he'll be shuffled back to 7th spot. But I think for Menino, it's still a big net gain in the race, because we've seen quite a few GTPs run into trouble so far. Those have been essentially free positions for Mr. Menino. Stephen Finch, meanwhile, has just come out of the pits, and you see a puff of smoke there and a slow Ferrari. That is Stephen Finch. Only just come out of the pits, actually 6 laps complete, and it seems like he made another mistake at turn 1. Not ideal. Side by side through the hairpin is not ideal either. That's the number 15 of Devon Young, who's chasing Eduardo Aguiar for 10th in GT3, but they have the LMP2 of, I believe that's Justin Barrera right with them. And thanks to the pit stop from Alex Caruso, Barrera is in the lead of LMP2 right now. Still has to take a pit stop, but it looks like Barrera might be on course for another podium here if he does everything properly.
Man, he's pretty comfortable in podium contention, about 10 seconds ahead of Ryan Long. And I see now the blend between the two Alexes. Caruso has actually come out 3 seconds ahead of Alex Crow. So the early stop, not really working out for Crow. Not really not working out for him either. He didn't really lose or gain anything. That was essentially the gap before the pit cycle came around, but that's exactly what I was talking about. You can't really tell. If you pit early, are you going to be able to pull off an undercut? Not really, because you're going to be dealing with the same traffic that every other car is going to have to deal with. Didn't quite work out for Crow, but he didn't lose anything either.
Oh, we're on board with Graham Wildman right now, chasing Matt Benson. And it's for 3rd on track. Effective position, potentially still around 3rd spot. Because, I mean, there's been a lot of GTPs that have spent some time in the pits. So, yeah, I think that is actually a battle for effective 3rd at the moment. Not able to get by for the moment, but now Aaron Beaver in one of the very few, if not the only Porsche 963 in the field, trying to chase down Darian Roy. I do love the Porsche 963. It's I think, the most pleasant looking of the GTP cars, and certainly fast on its day. Not the most popular choice with the current balance of performance, but Aaron Beaver's making it work.
It's a very pleasant looking paint scheme as well. I got to give him credit. It's creamy white on top, a little bit of beachy blue. It's a It's a very Long Beach paint scheme. I like it.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Reminds me of California.
He's a chill guy.
Absolutely. I haven't seen a chill guy on a sim racing paint just yet, but I'm sure that day is not too far away.
Aaron Beaver, you know what to do.
Yes, indeed. Put one, maybe, I don't know, on the front fenders potentially. Give us a little hint at that. Regardless, finding his way through on GT3s and LMP2s alike, Darian Roy able to find his way past the P2, and so Beaver's going to have to stay behind here through the hairpin, but then there's a GT3 right ahead of Darian Roy. So it looks like the gap just stays the same from there. Let's see what Beaver can do to find his way past both of those potentially towards the end. Alex Caruso, meanwhile, out of the pits, and good to the end of the race, we're thinking. Having just passed Kevin Berquist, and Austin McGill in front of them actually passed them for overall position. McGill spent 2 minutes in the pits about 14 laps ago, so he's having to fight his way up through the LMP2s to get back in contact with the rest of the GTPs.
Looking at my timing here, trying to figure out what we're still waiting for. We're still waiting for the entirety of GTP, essentially. There's only been Miguel Rios and the slightly damaged Dave Menino that have made their stops there. Top 4, Barrera, Lehman, Goodson, Sorrentino, and LMP2 still need to pit. And then everybody who's not damaged in GT3 as well. So it's been a fuel-saving festival, as we're used to seeing at Long Beach. These are very, very long racing runs. So there's not going to be anything in terms of tire changes, not going to be thinking about that. You're just going to be thinking about the smallest possible, the shortest possible pit stop. And for the majority of the field, it seems like they just want to save it for as late as humanly possible and maybe minimize any chance of having to drive through any extra traffic that they didn't want to drive through in the first place.
We've had an unfortunate solo incident in GT3 for Matthew Wyckoff, meanwhile. Poor Matthew turning in for the 8th corner and lost the rear end, and he couldn't get the car going again, so he had to tow back to the pits. That's an unfortunate run here for Wyckoff, who was contending for the top 5, I believe, if everything went right for him, but unfortunately the rear end of his Ferrari had other ideas.
Darn. It's just one of those incidents that's especially frustrating at Long Beach. Like, you come into this race expecting chaos, expecting drama, expecting all the other words we've said today, but you expect to get taken out in spectacular fashion. You don't necessarily expect to end your race in a straightforward incident like that, or in a mistake that's your own fault. So those are all the more frustrating when it's a somewhat normal incident that takes you out.
It's an easy incident to happen at turn 8 as well, because the street that you turn in from is so wide, and the exit of the corner is so narrow. You're actually carrying more speed into the corner than you expect. So it's really easy to sort of miss your mark and maybe hit a bump the wrong way, turn in too much, carry the brakes a bit too far, and have the rear end swing around on you. Oh no! That's Wildman! Graham Wildman! Big damage coming out of, I think that's turn 5. He's stopped in the middle of the circuit. Hopefully he can get that fired up. But, it doesn't look like he's going anywhere.
And that was late down the straight. It looked like it was after turn 5. So I wonder if there was maybe a little bit of trouble with a lapped car or something. Let's see. That looks like a technical issue of some sort. He just went hard right into the wall. Yeah, that's a technical issue. Bad luck for Graham.
I'm wondering if it was his monitor or something, because, yeah, it looked like the wheel was still working. Actually, completely straight as after the hit, so that's unclear as to what happened, but it was definitely a hardware failure of some kind for Graham Wildman, and that is such a shame for a driver who's had such great form in this championship. To be taken out by something that's not due to your own driving, I think it's just as frustrating.
Ooh, that was tough. That was tough for Alex Crow. He's actually dealing with cars that he's pitted, and the 2 cars in front of him have not. So he's got to get by Kevin Bergquist, who's on a different strategy. But Bergquist has no obligation to let him by unless he actually gets close enough to make that happen easily. And he was not close enough to make that happen in turn 9. There's smoke in turn 1. Didn't see who that was, but somebody smacked the wall. I think that was Matt Benson, potentially.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, Matt Benson out of 3rd at that, who takes himself out of contention.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, that is not good at all. And actually, it looks like he did that all on his own as well. He was on the brakes. Robert McGeehan in the Mustang there was actually coming out of the pits alongside him when it happened. And there's more drama there. Oh dear. That's Bergquist there getting shuffled out of the way. And I don't know if he'll be too happy with that.
I don't think he will. I feel bad for Kevin. I mentioned earlier, well, we'll get to that in a second. We got to do Matt Benson first. He's coming into turn 1.
Just too hot.
Yeah, and that was textbook target fixation. Saw the Mustang coming out of the pits, lost focus for a second, and you can't afford to lose focus for a second, even a 1/10 of a second, because you get on the brakes just that little bit too late, and it's physically impossible to get that car slowed down and still make the corner. So that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for both Valhalla Racing drivers. Him and McGill were both on a pretty good shot to a podium. Unfortunately, mistakes have taken them both out of consideration, and looks like it'll be a fairly straightforward podium for Miguel Rios at the moment, if he can keep it on track for the rest of the race, but that's easier said than done.
It certainly is. Don't forget, though, that Miguel Rios was the first of the GTPs to come into the pit lane, so he doesn't have any further obligations here. He's going to gain one more spot as Aaron Beaver makes his way in the 97 Porsche 963, and that will be a potential podium, I would say, for Miguel, considering that Roy, Wilson, and Larson out front still have yet to come into the lane themselves. Here's Caleb Lehman once again. Caleb now into the top 3 of LMP2, with everyone else save for Kevin Bergquist behind him having come into the lane. We'll have to wait and see what Caleb has up his sleeve here. How much longer is he going to push this? Same for Barrera and Sorrentino. Are they going to commit to going as long as they possibly can, or are they going to pit in the next couple of laps?
Clock's ticking. The fuel's ticking and the clock is ticking. And also we've heard from some inside sources that the unfortunate reason for Graham Wildman's crash is his mouse fell off his desk and it turned off his VR.
Oh no.
It's always gotta be something ridiculous like that.
Oh man.
Whether it's real life, a squirrel ate your brake lines or something. And in the virtual world, you can have your mouse fall off your desk and click and disconnect your VR. It's always something.
Well, you know, that's something that I've experienced quite a few times. Not in that specific way, but my mouse has fallen
Squirrels eating
off
your brakes?
Sorry?
The wallabies? They ate your wires?
Kangaroo cut my brake lines,
No.
mate. Oh no. My rig has a little panel for keyboard and mouse, and when I'm driving at a bumpy track like Long Beach, it shakes the whole rig, and the mouse can eventually fall off. So I understand exactly what Graham Wildman went through there.
Everybody, we need to start a GoFundMe. We're going to start the Reese and Graham double-sided tape fund.
That would be very handy, actually. I wouldn't mind that.
We'll get it going.
Yeah, maybe a little tray just for the mouse and have some very high lips on that tray. Well, we should turn our attention to pit stops because we have the 2 Costellos of Joey and Tony plus Eduardo Aguirre making their way through the pit lane, and also our GTP leader, Timothy Larson, has decided to come in. He's held on to the lead for a very long time, but you mentioned earlier on in the show, Joey, Brandon Wilson sometimes has a bit of a strategy ace up his sleeve.
He is a crafty guy, but he can only be so crafty. I think there was something like a 20-second gap separating Larson and Wilson by the time Larson came down pit lane, so it's going to be very, very difficult to overcome that, even if Wilson's been able to save some fuel. Larson had a 16-second stop there. Even if Wilson has something like a 12-second stop, if he saved 4 seconds of fuel, that's still nowhere near enough to be able to jump him just on pit strategy, so Wilson's hoping that Larson runs into trouble here in the next 20 minutes. There's still a lot of traffic to deal with. There's still a lot that could go on. And there's a McGee and Mustang that's wider than it was before to deal with. So that's basically Wilson's only hope. Hope that Larson runs into trouble.
Yeah, indeed. And, you know, trouble tends to find Timothy Larson occasionally. There's been a couple of times this season that he's been burned by the incident limit. A little bit too much off tracks, maybe contact with a couple of GT3s has unfortunately put him over that incident limit, and he's had to take a tour through the pits. And sometimes it's just been mistakes that have brought Larson down. But for now, he has a solid advantage over the rest of the GTP field, and hopefully he holds on to it, because we would certainly like to see that championship battle narrow coming into the last 3 rounds.
It's one of the newly repaired Valhalla GTPs coming through. This battle for the last couple spots in the top 10 in GT3. Good to see an Acura, a Corvette, Costello, Aguiar. They've been dead equal on pace, and they're still stuck together after 42 minutes of racing. It's a nice little battle, and I look forward to it continuing for the rest of the day. And I think they're going to have some company soon, because Derek Heiberger from the race lead has finally come down pit lane, and he's going to be behind these guys. So there may be inter-GT3 lap traffic coming soon. There's LMP2 traffic coming through first.
Good Lord, yeah. Sometimes when you're a prototype driver, you have to thread the needle, but when I'm driving a prototype, I like to avoid it at all costs. Heiberger out of the lane, and oh dear, we switch back to Tony Costello, because it looks like, yeah, there's been a problem there in front of him, and that's the, who's that? Is that Barrera? No, it's not. It's one of the other LMP2s there.
I think that was the 30. The 32. But it was Costello and Aguiar that came together in the first place, unfortunately. So I was giving them compliments for keeping it clean, and unfortunately, it was Aguiar in the Acura a little bit too late or Costello rather in the Acura a little bit too late in the brakes into turn 8, and just wasn't totally there. Turns Aguiar around.
Tempting move. The track is, of course, very wide on the way in. You can easily fit them alongside, but yeah, you got to actually make sure that you're fully alongside before you get to the turning point. Otherwise, it's just going to cause that kind of drama. Well, the battle will resume, and Eduardo Aguiar now has Costello behind him again. The position has been redressed, so Costello recognizing his error there and allowing Aguiar back by. Now they can continue on.
And Luke Wallace is down pit lane as well, so the battle for the lead, if you can even call it that, in GT3 is now resolved. Heiberger has a 1 second lead over Devin Young, who has yet to actually pit, so take that with a grain of salt. Luke Wallace is actually the gap we're going to want to see, and he is about 6 seconds behind. So Heiberger, similar story as in the other 2 classes, has been in control of this race from the lead for the entirety of the first 45 minutes. He's essentially been untouchable. He's just got to keep that up for 16 more minutes, and he'll have a pretty straightforward win for him.
Yeah, should be good there for Heiberger to maintain the GT3 championship lead. 16 minutes left to run in this race, and Mr. Wallace is all on his own here. All he's got to do is focus on what's coming up in his mirrors for now, and he should hold on for second place. Devin Young is the last of our GT3s yet to make a pit stop. Should expect him in rather soon. Meanwhile, in GTP, looks like we still have a few takers, and it's the same for LMP2 as well. So, still have yet to be decided largely in this race. Only 15 minutes left, and, well, Brandon Wilson is still out there, Darian Roy, and looks like Justin Barrera, Doug Sorrentino, and Caleb Lehman still holding on to the top 3 in LMP2, yet to take their stops. Kevin Bergquist has not come in either. So outside of those drivers I highlighted, everyone else has made their way in and gotten that fuel to the end.
I think Brandon Wilson is still out of luck unless he can pull off a miracle either on fuel or with his rivals being taken out. I think he's pretty well positioned for second. So he gets to the inside of Bergquist into turn 9. Gotta be a little bit patient to get around Robert McGeehan, but he's gonna send it either way. He's got the speed. Definitely aggressive there, and it did not pay off for him. Lost a ton of momentum on the exit, and he's now gonna say, I'm minimizing my losses. I lost a ton of time there in the final sector, and Wilson does finally elect to bring it down pit lane, but don't look for him on the blend. Don't look for him to be in contention. He's gonna be about 15 seconds behind. Gotta watch Larson, though, in the final sector. This is what Wilson's going to be watching the relative and hoping that number falls down and he runs into trouble.
Okay, into the stop then for Brandon Wilson. Larson's stop was 16.6 seconds, and he flings on by, sweeps through Shoreline Drive and takes the lead back. And Wilson's stop potentially would be shorter, and it is by about a second, but ultimately that's not going to do much for the lead battle. So Brandon, I think, is going to have to settle in to the rest of this race and consolidate. Second place is his. He just needs to make sure he stays there.
Come out behind the 69 and Doug Sorrentino, and there you can see the gap, 22 seconds. Timothy Larson's been able to pull at the front of this race. That is just phenomenal stuff. And now Miguel Rios, who's going to come down pit straight now. He's already made his stop. He made his stop 17 laps ago. He's going to pull out in a comfortable podium position. Darian Roy is going to be about 40 seconds behind him after this stop. Everybody else is a lap down in the GTP class. Miguel Rios just has to keep it on track, and he's got a podium in one of the only two Ferraris in the field.
Yeah, we haven't seen a Ferrari on the podium yet in GTP, and looks like this is a really good round to see that finally happen. It's been a well-executed drive from Miguel Rios. Remember, he was the first of our GTPs to pit, and that turned out to be a masterstroke.
And now Justin Barrera in LMP2 is going to bring it down. This is actually going to be interesting to watch. He had... can't do the math in my head that quickly, but I think he had around a 40-second gap over Alex Caruso. This stop does not look especially short. It's about 14 seconds, but this is going to be a very critical blend. Barrera coming to pit exit. I mean, you just saw Caruso coming out of the final corner. This might actually be close into turn one.
Oh, maybe it will. There's the position switched there. There's still quite a bit of pit lane to go there for Barrera. But here we go into turn one. Alex Caruso is going to pass him into turn one, but the gap is a lot closer than we expected.
Yeah, Barrera needed maybe an extra second there with the wider turn into turn one when you're coming out of the pits. He just needed that little bit extra, but he's got a chance now. There is no gap between these two, and Caruso's getting held up here behind the Ferrari. Barrera's all over the back of him. He's sending a nose to the inside already. We've got a battle for the win in LMP2. This is great stuff.
One of the first times this season we can actually say that, because Alex Caruso has been so dominant in this class. His pace has been so incredible over everyone else, but Justin Barrera, through care and strategy alone, has managed to find his way in contention for the race win. This could be huge for him.
Oh, and Brandon Wilson.
No.
He didn't lose much, didn't hit the wall, but he did lose an additional 16 seconds to Timothy Larson. Bad luck for him. He's still got 10 seconds ahead of Rios, so just a little bit of damaged pride there. He does have to be careful, though, not to get into those mistakes. He's in such a comfortable position right now. He cannot afford to do anything wrong, and he doesn't need to. He can drive at 80% pace for the rest of this race and easily get second place. Got to make sure not to push too hard, because you're not going to be fighting for the win on pace. You're going to be fighting for the win on luck.
Yeah, that's Long Beach. That's how it always turns out. And sometimes the traffic can smile on you. If you take a bit more care through the traffic, you make sure that you're losing as little time as possible. You could be in Justin Barrera's position, fighting the dominant Alex Caruso for victory. For victory. And he's going to go for the move at turn 8, and almost gets squeezed into the tire bundles. Does Alex Caruso? He's been overtaken legitimately by Justin Barrera. I didn't think I'd ever see it.
That was excellent stuff, and look who's on the scene, the other Alex C. You thought Alex Crow was out of it? He's absolutely not. Throw a blanket over the top 3 in LMP2. Doug Sorrentino's down pit lane this time. He'll fall to about 4th, I think. And this is going to become 1st, 2nd, and 3rd seeing if somebody can finally break up the Alex C festival in LMP2.
I don't know if I wasn't paying due attention to the LMP2 timing screen, but this has come out of nowhere for me. I expected Alex Caruso to be way further in the lead than he actually is. I thought things would work out very differently to this, but we have a three-way battle for the lead in LMP2 with less than 10 minutes to go in this race. So now we get to see what Alex Caruso's racing nous is like. Can he catch back up to Justin Barrera? Can he keep Crow behind him? This is one of the first times I've seen Caruso under any real pressure.
And this is the ultimate pressure for Justin Barrera in the lead. He has never won a race before in the PRL. He is in a very unfamiliar position here, and he's got two of the best, or the two best, LMP2 drivers in the PRL behind him. He's in a good position. If he keeps it clean, he's going to win this race, but it's high pressure. And it's those high-pressure situations where it's so easy to get jittery, to make a mistake, to open the door to a more experienced driver behind you. He's got to make sure to keep the head in his shoulders. He's only got about 8 laps to go. If he can keep them all mistake-free, he's in with a shot of his first win.
The GT3 of Thomas Dunn really affecting the second-place battle there. Caruso and Crow both had to back out of it, and now Alex Crow on Alex Caruso at turn 1. Can he get it done? They make contact and they both spin. That has effectively given victory to Justin Barrera right there.
That is the best thing that could have happened for Barrera. He is probably smiling very big in that helmet right now. Remarkably, neither of those cars really came out with any damage. Caruso did, he backed into the tires, but Crow got no damage out of that. That could have been a much bigger accident, but it was still an accident all the same that you could kind of see coming on the front straight with neither of those drivers really wanting to yield. And for the first time all season, those two big rivals, they've tripped over each other.
Yeah, wow. I mean, in terms of LMP2 leads, we've never really had much to talk about all season. It's either been Alex Caruso way out in front or Alex Crow getting his I think only one victory this season. So for now, we have to keep an eye out for potentially a non-Alex C on the top spot of the podium. But for now, we have two other classes to think about, and here's GT3, Joey Costello and Devin Young battling over 6th place. Devin Young has finally taken his pit stop. He was the last GT3 to stick it out and go super long on the initial stint. Dave Menino as well having a spin, and that looks like Alex Crow that had to really back up when Menino had a spin.
Yeah, both Alexes did. He spun in front of Caruso to begin with, and then Crow came through onto the scene as well. Both of them had to check up big time for that. And then did he get spun again? He did.
Yeah.
He tripped over Thomas Dunn as well on the exit of the hairpin. Poor old Dave Menino has been having a tough time of things today, but if you ever wanted proof of why you always need to keep sticking it out, why you can never give up, we've seen Dave Menino in the runoff. We've seen him spinning multiple times today. He's still on the lead lap. He's still in 4th. That's a pretty good result for a guy who's had a tough day at Long Beach.
Yeah, indeed. And he's certainly had some good drives so far. Oh, God. Ryan Long very late on the brakes there in his battle with Caleb Lehman. These guys fighting over 7th in LMP2. And is that Thomas Dunn there in front of him? Yeah, Thomas Dunn has seen some stuff in the last 5-6 laps, hasn't he? I mean, we talk about poor old this and that. What about poor old Thomas Dunn? He's been at the center of a lot of that drama.
I can't say poor old Thomas Dunn too much, though, because you did just see he's ended up in 3rd at the end of this all.
He has. Fair point.
Pretty remarkable for him. That's a great result. And I'd say he's kept out of trouble for the majority of the race. It's only started to strike now, but yeah, if you're going to run into trouble when you have a comfortable buffer of about 7 seconds behind you, then it's fine to run into trouble. Then you can just coast to the finish.
Gotta be careful, the GTPs though. Every little ding and dent on that car is just adding up there for Thomas Dunn. Meanwhile, Doug Sorrentino in LMP2 chasing Kurt Goodson, making his way past the SRTE green Acura there. Can he get anything done here? on Kurt Goodson, who's put on a fantastic drive in the initial stint of this race. He made up some great time, but now he's under pressure again, and Sorrentino trying to psych him out by moving around in the mirrors.
And Kurt's up 3 spots from his grid spot, which doesn't sound that impressive, but first piece of data, he did that at Long Beach, made those 3 passes at a street circuit where it's very difficult to pass. And second of all, he had to make extra moves, because remember, he was deeper in the order than he intended to be. He ran into some early trouble and had to make passes on track on Caleb Lehman, on Sam Shreves, on Ryan Long, on Doug Sorrentino. He has just been driving through this field. He's had nothing gifted to him. This has been a very good day for Kurt Goodson.
Certainly has. We shall see if he can hold on to this, because Doug Sorrentino, don't forget, has put on some great drives as well. Managed to get a podium at Monza, I believe, last round. So he certainly got it in him to be good in the LMP2. There's not going to be a chance for a move there as they find their way past Thomas Dunn, who's seen, I think, as many prototype battles as it's possible for a GT3 to see in this race. Who gets the best exit out of turn 8? Oh, so close to the wall there for Doug Sorrentino? No, Doug Sorrentino. My apologies, Doug. Into turn 9 we go. Got to take a lot of that curb, run over the teeth on the inside, but that can unsettle the car quite a bit. Seems like the LMP2 has enough grip in it, though, that it's able to hold on, and then it's all about the punch out of the final hairpin. It's so difficult, I find, to actually get the power down out there, especially in a very powerful car.
If Doug does make this move back for 4th, we can call him Dog Sorrentino. We can say he has the dog in him.
Absolutely. I'll keep that in mind. Well, under 3 minutes to go as we see Ryan Long. Oh no. Turn 5 claims another victim there. One of the bumpiest curbs on the racetrack, and Long's trajectory just wasn't correct. So he'll have to nurse his wounds to the end. These are 2 drivers who are certainly nursing a few wounds, but they're still battling over 2nd and 3rd in LMP2. Caruso versus Crow, take 2. Crow tried at turn 1, and I mean, it is the heaviest braking zone on the circuit, but it's not the easiest to pass at, as we've seen. So, it's very wide there. I think that was Luke Wallace there in the Hyperion McLaren that had to go really wide for them. Fortunately, the GT3 turning circle is tight enough to make that work. But for Caruso and Crow, if they're going to battle, they have to make sure that the pass is made securely.
And remember, Caruso has much more damage to the rear end of his car. He backed it into the tires in turn 1. Crow didn't get any damage other than the little bit of contact he made with Caruso's car in turn 1. So Crow is in a much better situation right now. He's also probably a little bit gun shy right now. He's probably a little bit timid. He doesn't want to hit Caruso again. He probably feels a little bit bad about what he did in the first place. But if he gets the opportunity to take 2nd back, I don't think he's going to be too timid. He'll still go for it if he gets the chance, but he's probably thinking a little bit more about high percentage moves.
Yeah, where do you find that high percentage move, though? Turn 1 is obvious, but you need to make sure that you're alongside at the turn-in point to have any chance of getting it done cleanly. Turn 8, it's just too difficult with the track narrowing up on the exit. I think probably turn 6 is probably going to be his best chance if he can get it done. Regardless, there is less than a minute remaining, and Timothy Larson has just gone through the fountain section at the moment. I think it's going to be touch and go as to whether this is actually the final lap. It is a short lap around Long Beach, so let's see if Larson has to go an extra lap or not.
Even if he does, even if he didn't calculate the fuel to go an extra lap, you see that 40-second buffer? With a lap that's only a minute long, Timothy Larson could drive at half speed for the final lap and still win this race. That is how dominant he's been. This has been the performance of the season. He's had some tough races. He's had some races that were lost on strategy. He's been beaten by Wilson 3 out of 5 times, but there's been no arguing against Timothy Larson here. This has been all him, all day, totally untouchable.
Yeah, and with barely a lick of damage on his car at all, the checkered flag is flying, and that is going to be victory for Timothy Larson here at Long Beach. Massive congratulations, and what a drive it was. Really impressive indeed. Here comes Justin Barrera to take victory in LMP2, by the way. Finally breaks the Alex C stranglehold on the LMP2 results this season, and Derek Heiberger crossing the line to win in GT3. Absolutely fantastic performances from all three of our winners today.
It's always good to see a first-time winner. Justin Barrera, a very underdog-esque performance. Didn't really even think of him to be in consideration, but both of his rivals elected to make early pit stops, lost a bunch of extra time by the luck of the traffic draw, and Barrera was able to navigate traffic that much better, that much faster, and made a pass when it mattered. Great stuff.
Yeah, perfectly executed there from Barrera, and the battle for GT3 is still yet to be decided here between Joey Costello and Devin Young, but it looks like Costello gets the exit out of the hairpin that he needs, and he will grab that 6th spot. Devin Young with a very good drive, have to say. He stuck it out on strategy and made it work, gets a top 10 at the end. But we'll go through our GTP results first. Larson, 39.5 seconds is the gap to Brandon Wilson. Sheer dominance from the number 12 today, and that'll tighten up the championship battle some. Wilson and Rios finishing the podium. Also want to highlight Rios podium in the Ferrari 499P for the first time this season. Fantastic stuff from Miguel. He was the one who tried a bit of an offset strategy too. Menino and Roy rounding out the top 5. Some good recoveries from them. Aaron Beaver gets a solid 6th place in the blue chip Porsche. McGill and Benson both suffered big issues in the Valhalla Cadillacs, with Stephen Finch as well having to spend some time in the pits. Graham Wildman retiring due to hardware issues. Nathan Ray was unfortunately taken out due to a mistake as well. And Casey O'Brien, it looks like, didn't even take to the start in your LMP2 field. Finally, Justin Barrera on top. Alex Caruso and Alex Crow, they came together, but they ended up keeping their distance at the end and finished 2nd and 3rd. Kurt Goodson getting 4th place in a magnificent climb up. Doug Sorrentino rounding out the top 5. Lehman will beat Sam Shreves to 6th place, with Ryan Long, Kevin Berquist and Evan Henneman rounding out your LMP2 top 10. Ian Cabana coming home 3 laps down, and unfortunately we saw a retirement from Matt Brewer, and Eric Harmon did not take to the start either, despite taking part in practice. Derek Heiberger and Luke Wallace, it's the Hyperion 1-2 and GT3 once again, but they really had to work for it today. Thomas Dunn managing to get a podium in the blue chip Porsche as well. Fantastic stuff from him. Jim Felice and Jeff Kaufhold 4th and 5th, with Costello and Young fighting over 6th and 7th at the end. Last finisher on the lead lap in GT3, Matthew Maturo in the 2nd of the blue chip GT3s. Eduardo Aguiar and Tony Costello rounding out your top 10. And then we got into a very difficult territory with Adam Ostrich 3 laps down. Matthew Wyckoff retiring. Robert McGeehan stuck it out all the way to the end. He had to spend a lot of time in the pits, and unfortunately Doug Evans barely made it to the 1/3 point of this race. Well, we can get into driver interviews now, and the first driver we want to chat to is our winner in GTP. Timothy Larson is with us. Congratulations, Timothy. Long Beach belonged to you today.
Hi, thank you so much. Everything just like Nürburgring, really. It went my way, and everything felt good. I made very few mistakes. Just a perfect race.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more that can be said about it. It was a perfect performance. Managed to work your way through the traffic cleanly, and ending up getting a lead by 40 seconds. The championship lead for Brandon Wilson will narrow just a tiny bit coming into the next round. Congratulations, Timothy, and hopefully we're chatting to you again next week.
Yeah, thanks again.
Timothy Larson there. 2nd place, Brandon Wilson is not with us at the moment, so it looks like we'll jump straight to Miguel Rios here, Joey. Sorry, I've pulled in the wrong driver there, and it looks like Brandon Wilson has just popped in, so we're going to hand him to you, Joey.
In the nick of time, Brandon. It was a tough day at Long Beach. Timothy really seemed to have this figured out here. Was 2nd the best you could do? You think there was anything else out there?
No, this week's 2nd was the best I could do. I think really my main goal here was just come home with a good finish and just bag some championship points. understanding that I can't win everything. I'm not Max Verstappen, and even he makes mistakes. So my main goal really was just to survive this race, and I did that pretty good. Made some mistakes during the race, but they were no harm, no foul, just lost some time. So pretty happy to come away with second here.
Yeah, and you're still going to be the championship leader at the end of today, so congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Shout out to my teammate Darian on his top 5 finish. Proud of that guy. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff. A team guy right there. Brandon Wilson and Darian Roy for good measure.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at Brandon's Discord profile pic, I think those biceps really got to work out here around Long Beach. We're going to move to Miguel Rios, who gets onto the podium in the Ferrari for the first time this season. Welcome, Miguel. You were one of the drivers to go early on the pit stop. A bit of a calculated strategy there because it was very important to come out in clean air.
Yeah, yes, of course. Yeah, traffic management was like my main task. I was keeping my head down. I had such a bad race last week that I was focusing on Long Beach for a little bit because I knew it was gonna be a lot more chaos. There's a lot more hairy moments and a lot more close quarters. So I kept checking the traffic, and at one point I saw Austin go in, and I was just like, I think that's too early. I almost thought I think Austin got me in terms of track position. So I had to rethink my strategy, and I'm just checking my fuel, and I decided to just keep going because I know there'll be another gap in the traffic. So as soon as I saw the right time, I believe it was the right time to jump in to defend my position from anyone else who's gonna plan to undercut me. So yeah, hopefully I can push the same result for next week at Le Mans.
Yeah, indeed. Still 3 rounds remaining in the season to get another podium on the books. Thanks for joining us, Miguel, and we'll see you at Le Mans.
Yep, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Miguel Rios in the number 77 getting it done there. And, well, I think this is going to be the happiest driver here today, Joey. Justin Barrera on top in LMP2.
Indeed. First-time winner in the PRL, Justin. Came out of nowhere on the pit cycle. How'd you pull that off?
I had no idea where they were at, and I think I overfueled actually at the end. I had at least an extra lap of fuel, but I wanted to be safe with the sorry, and I just pushed, and I wanted to make sure I could attack if I needed to.
Pulled it off, and in dominant fashion, you've got your first ever win in the PRL. Congrats, and see if you can make it number 2 next week.
Yeah. I want to thank ZPM, friends, effects, and my friend SJ Marcy and my family. But yeah, let's see what happens next week.
Indeed, we will. Justin Barrera, first-time winner in the PRL, came home ahead of the first of the Alex C's. Alex Caruso is here with Reese.
Indeed he is, Alex. It was another great pole position for you, but it seemed like the traffic didn't quite go your way today. There was also that head-to-head with Alex Crow, and well, regardless, to still salvage a second out of that, I think still a really good race for you. But just talk us through how it all went down for you.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, every time you're racing at Long Beach, it's going to be a gamble with the traffic. I definitely got held up going into the hairpin quite a few times, and I think maybe I was just trying to be too generous maybe with GT3s. I saw that some of the other LMP2s were kind of trying to move around the left-hander right before the hairpin, and I thought that might be a little too risky for this. But at the end of the day, big risks, big rewards. I wasn't in the position to take those risks today, so I settled for the position that I was in, and had a tough battle with Justin there and Alex. I'm still not sure how I feel about that contact with Alex. I'm hoping he'll sit with me and review it after the race is over, but it was a tough one for sure.
Yeah, certainly was, but you can rest assured that you're still one of the top drivers in LMP2 in this league. So here's to Le Mans next week, and hopefully we'll chat to you again there.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
Alex Caruso, they're second in LMP2, and we're going to get an opportunity to get the other side of that incident here. Joey is with Alex Crow.
Indeed, Alex, from your perspective, talk us through turn 1 with about 10 minutes to go.
It was close. I haven't taken a really hard look at the replay yet. I think it was fair for me to go for it there. I don't know how much room was left. So I thought I made the apex fine. I don't know if I was about to push wide or something. It happens though. It's Long Beach. Kind of just have to expect some incidents at some point in the race.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, both of you made it through. Both of you ended up on the podium, so congrats on another podium, and we'll see you at Le Mans next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Joey.
Alex Crow rounding out the LMP2 drivers. Just a couple more to talk to. We've got GT3 winner Derek Heiberger with Reese.
We have indeed. Derek, we talked to you after qualifying and you were happy with the pole position. You were just looking to take this one lap at a time, and ultimately it's come away with another victory for you and the championship lead is secured.
Well, I said it last week after Monza. I love street tracks. I was looking forward to this week. So for me, it was just maintaining the lead for the first couple laps, and then it was just pace management from there out. This place suits me super well, suits my driving style, so I don't want to say this was an expected one for me, but this is the one I wanted to win the most.
Well, and when you did, unfortunately, no more Long Beaches on the schedule. We're going to some open European road circuits for the final 3 rounds of the season, but you've been on the pace at every single round this season, so I expect we're going to be chatting to you again next week.
I'll be in the booth one way or another. We'll just see if Luke's the first one in here instead of me this time.
Indeed. Derek Heiberger there, victory in GT3. And speaking of Luke Wallace, here's our last driver interview. Joey stood by with the Hyperion Acura.
Finishing
McLaren,
us off.
Sorry.
Second place in the McLaren. Your teammate pulled about 10 seconds out of it at the end of the day. Was there anything more you could do to challenge him, or was it a Heiberger festival up front?
Oh, he was flying today, so definitely great job to him. He made no mistakes as far as I know. But I had really planned to stay within his slipstream, but on the first lap I messed up and gave him that second gap immediately. So from that point on, it was really just try to chase him down, but his pace was so good, it was just super difficult to do.
That was a Hyperion 1-2 in GT3, Hyperion win overall in GTP. Congrats to you and the whole team, and we'll see all you guys next week.
Thank you. See you then.
Gonna finish us off, Reese. Lots of happy drivers. Nobody too unhappy. I'd say this was a great success at Long Beach. We were expecting maybe more chaos and drama than we actually got. We got a pretty good race at the end of it all.
Yeah, very, very pleasant surprise, and I'm really happy with how the round went myself as well. A fantastic show, and we certainly hope that you can all join us for the next round next week at the Circuit de la Sarthe in the countryside of France, just outside the city of Le Mans. That is going to be a magnificent round at the home of sports car racing globally. You'll see it right here on RaceSpotTV on the date and time on your screen. I'm Reese Gardner, Joey Tebbin with me in the comms box, Hugo Luis behind the scenes bringing you the pictures and streaming here on RaceSpotTV. We'll see you next time.